Alright guys, it's been a while since I made the last tutorial on Lua. Last time we went over arithmetic and relation operators and basically summarized like if and then kind of like this right here. If you just remember how we kind of went over checking if something was equal to another thing, we would be able to perform let's say code, right? And actually another thing is, here in this video we're going to be going over logical and logical operators and conditional statements. We kind of actually covered conditional statements last time already, because conditional statements involve if and then. I didn't actually explain that last time, but we can just add that onto right here actually, just real quick. Conditional involves if, then, and should involve something else actually. So yeah, conditional tests, if and then. There's also something else. There's else if. I think I'm gonna put that in. I should put that in this video. I think I will do that. Yeah. So else if and else. This is probably gonna be a little confusing for this one. We can go over conditional loops a little later. Not exactly necessary to do it right now. So yeah. So basically, for this part, we're just going to be going over the conditional statements and not conditional loops. Plus, we're going to go over logical operators. So basically, when we add different type of things here, such as conditional statements and logical operators, we continue this basically. So you see how right here we have only one condition, right? We're saying that if this part that's in workspace, its transparency is equal to 1, then run the code, right? Now say we wanted it to have multiple conditions, not just one. Basically, the way how we do that is we add something called and in the middle of it, or just somewhere in it. Logical operator. So that's and, or, and not. Basically, that's what they are, right? Let's put a space there just so it's nice and tidy. All right. So the easiest way to think about this is when you put an and inside this statement right here, you are trying to make sure that both the things, like both requirements, are equal to true. So make sure. So here's an example actually. All right. So let's just do if workspace. Basically, what this is saying is if workspace exists inside the game, which it does, then for now we're just gonna print hi. Put that in right there, and it prints hi right there. Okay. So we got one condition that's true. Now, let's say we want to add another condition to it. Okay. Now let's go over to properties in workspace. Just for an example, we're going to get back to distributed game time. And right now, distributed game time is equal to 0. So we're going to add an and. Now we're going to check if distributed game time is equal to 0, and which in this case it is. And we just do if or and we just dot distributed game time equals 0. Then print hi. It prints hi because both conditions are equal to true. Both of them exist. Now let's say we make this one equal to 1. This is not going to work because both conditions aren't true. This one is. Workspace does exist, but the distributed game time is not equal to 1. It's equal to 0. So of course it's not going to print anything. Right? That's pretty much it. And it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty straightforward. It's just it makes sure that everything you put in and is all equal to true. So you could literally just do if true, if true and true and true and true, then print hello or hell. You'll print true, but then say if we put a false here, it will not print anything. Because remember what I said, when you put and in something, everything inside this whole statement that you have has to be equal to true. If one thing inside of it is not true, then the whole thing will not work. Just like right here, this one is true, this one here is false. Now the next application basically is we're gonna use or, right? Now we're gonna do this. If workspace or, for now we're just gonna do that. Now let's find a different example here. Let's just get back to this part right here. We're gonna get back to that part. Just in case you're confused, D1 workspace.D1 is just equal to a random part that I put in workspace. One right here. Sorry. Oh, wrong thing. Right there. That's what that part is. Okay. So anyways, we're gonna go back here. Alright, so if workspace or d1.transparency equal 1, then print at least one condition worked. Okay, so in this case, obviously, we know that workspace exists. We also know that workspace.d1, its transparency is equal to 1, right here. Now, what happens if we actually change that to 0? Actually, let's just do this. Let's leave it like that. Let's leave it like that. Okay. So the way to think about this, right? If one of the conditions here work, then you can continue to, or the function here, or not the function, sorry. The code here will run because at least one condition is equal to true, right? This one is true. This one is false because workspace.d1, its transparency is equal to 1 and not 0. At least one condition worked. Now, if we do this, if workspace equal nil, or workspace d1 transparency is equal to 0, then let's try it again. Let's continue to know with transparency. Oh, I actually don't know what caused that. Okay. Let's try that. I'll explain not. Okay. I'm just gonna have to get over that. That won't work. Yeah, okay. Alright, hold on. Let's get a different example here. We're gonna go back to D1. We're gonna get a different property here. So if D1.name doesn't equal D1, or D1.transparency doesn't equal 0, then print at least one condition works. So in this case, obviously, D1's name is actually D1. So this condition here is false. Because this is saying if D1's name is not equal to D1, then do this. But obviously, that is not the case. Right? I'm just trying to figure this out so it's not a tongue twister, right? How long has this been recorded for? 9 minutes already. Okay. Now we're gonna do this. What the actual hell is going on? Print at least attention index nil with name. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Whoops, I forgot to put that part in the code. Okay. That's what was going on. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So this didn't work out because, well, D1's name is equal to D1, and also D1's transparency is equal to 1. What does that mean? That means that obviously none of the conditions or worked. And if none of them worked, then the code that you're trying to put inside that statement will not run. So inevitably, this is the exact same thing as default. Oh, whoops. That is the exact same thing, basically. This condition here is false. This condition here is also false. So just to do a quick test, I can do this. And it should print false right there. And we can do it here as well. Plug that back in there. Go back. It's also equal to false. All right. And then if we just do that, and one of the conditions worked, in this case it does, at least one condition worked. Okay. Now we're going to get back to what not means. Basically, not means the opposite. It means the opposite of what you've got. Okay? So it's just an inverse. So if we print not true, that's going to print false. And if we print not false, it's going to print true. Print not true, false, print not false, true. And then if we put another, so if you put another one right there, then it's going to print false again, I think. Yeah. And if you put another one, gonna print true. And if you put another one, gonna print false. It's just the inverse of what you got going on. So that could actually like work for sorry, stretching. That could work for something like this, basically. So when you're doing something like this, when you're checking if an instance exists, when you're just doing if workspace, workspace is an instance. So now if we just literally do if not workspace, then so this is equivalent to if workspace does not exist, because obviously when you put something in a statement like this, it's only gonna be based off true and falses. Basically, when you crush it all together, like in its true nature, that's really what it is. So if I just do if not workspace, then print, whoops, workspace is gone. Oh, didn't print anything because, well, workspace is there. But if we do another not, which is equivalent to, basically this means, see, remember, this is cut off this part. This doesn't mean anything. This is false, right? Because workspace does exist. And then if we put another not right there, remember how the inverse of a false is equal to true? It'll be there right there. Oh, workspace is not gone, but you kind of get my point. All right. So now let's go back here. Let's go back here again. I'm gonna keep using the example out of D1 right here. Okay. So just like before, at least one of the statements here is true, so it's gonna print something out, right? Now let's apply not into this, and then after that, after we apply not, we're gonna apply and. We're gonna put all these things that you just learned into one thing and just apply it. Okay. All right. So for starters, we're gonna do this. Remember how before I said that if you do an and statement, or if you put ands inside it, that means both the things you're comparing have to be true, right? So you could potentially just do this. Just print ha la 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 la. Did that, and it's not gonna print anything. All right. Remember, because this one here, this statement, the first statement here is true. D1 right there is equal to D1. Just remember how we index the parts back to where it originally is at. And we're trying to see if the transparency is equal to 0, in which this case is not. So what happens when we put not there? I'm being dummy right now. Hold on a minute. Actually, we could do this really. Kind of the same thing right here. Okay. You kind of really can't use not for transparency like this. So actually, I'm gonna think of a different way to apply it. Okay. Let's just do this. We're gonna use a boolean, a bool, a true or false value. Local value equals true. Okay. And value. So this is gonna work because the value is equal to true. But of course. Now what happens if we do not? A not value. It won't print anything because remember, this is false and this is also, or this is true, sorry, and this one here is false. This is just flipping it. Basically, this is the same thing as changing it to false. Basically, when we just apply the not there, and if we apply another not, it changes that right back to true once again. Okay. Now if we do false, the value equals false, and we're doing not false, then we're changing it to true. Therefore, this whole thing here will work because both statements, both requirements are true. And it prints something out. Now here's where we can apply the or as well. Do that. This will also work because both, well, at least one condition works. You could do that and it still will work because this condition here is true but this one is not. But if we do both of them, they both work. And here's where things get really tricky though. I really don't recommend doing this yet. This is when you get really more like, you get a lot more comfortable with these operators. So a trick you could do actually is adding a bracket, okay? Let's just leave it at that for now. What this bracket does here is it's basically just like math, right? Just imagine you're doing something and you're just like doing a bunch of like math related things like adding, dividing, multiplying in one whole thing. You normally would not go 30 divided by 10 plus 38 multiplied by 40 to the power of to the power of like 8. You wouldn't do it like that. You would put at least them in like brackets, right? So we know which one is going first, something like that, right? So basically this is like doing, okay, we're first gonna do 30 divided by 10 and then we're gonna add 38 and then we're gonna multiply it by 40. We're gonna multiply that here whole thing by 40 and then we're gonna put it to the power of 8. Basically, that's the exact same thing here when you're applying it to these statements here. All right, so in this case we're gonna do, all right, I'll just pull out an example here. All right, so we're gonna do if d1.name equal d1. All right, that's true. And let's just say and value equal false. That will work. All right, and I'll say we want to add another condition here. So basically this is like two conditions. This whole thing right here is one condition. Now we can add another thing. Put that in the brackets there as well, or it doesn't actually have to. This just depends if you're doing something like that or you're doing another like thing like that. You would not do it like this. It'll look pretty nasty if you did it like that. You just kind of put it all together into one thing. All right, and all right, so let's just do this. If false or value equal false equal true, and d1 dot transparency equals 0. Then, all right. So let's take this in real quick. So this is just like before. Two conditions, but those conditions have conditions inside them, right? So this is one whole group right there. This is the other group right there. In this one right here, we are making sure that the name is equal to D1 and that value is equal to false, which it is. So this thing right here is true. That's how we're putting it in one bracket, just so it's all crumbled up into one thing, and it just checks to make sure that everything's good. All right, so here's on to the next one. So value is not equal to true. So this by default is false if we're putting an and there. If we put an or there, then that changes, right? So basically, I'm tired. Okay. We're adding both of these two together right here. Both of these conditions are false. So basically, this is true, and this here is false. What the heck was that? And if we do that, obviously it's gonna print out something because at least one of the conditions here are true. Let me just do this real quick. Yeah. If you have a false anywhere inside a statement that has a true in it, it automatically makes it false by default, no matter what. No matter what you do. But if both are true, then it's good to go. Okay. So from this, I might just leave you guys off with that. The best way to apply this is, firstly, I'd recommend just googling up what operators are on Roblox, or just on Google, and it'll take you to this page, and you can kind of just go through the things basically one by one. So remember how, yeah, just like the first operator video I made already, we came back to this page, we did arithmetic and we did relational, all here. They're all here on this page. And this time we did logical, which is and, or, not, and then we also opened up conditional statements, conditional structures, and has that right there. If, then, else, if, else, and that. I think, yeah. Else. Okay, this is kind of a long episode. I don't know if I want to continue to add that. I'll make a continued episode for these other parts right here. Else, if, and else. I'll explain that later on. But leave you guys off with that. Make sure, obviously, play around with this. Play around with things you're testing that go inside these statements here, and just familiarize yourself with how it works. All right, see ya later.